let's say that we want to draw a tree starting from a vertical line and that we control the length of the line. The length of this line goes from 0 to 10. The concept is that when the length is less than 1, there is no other branch. When the length is 1, then a point is put over here and a new branch begins to be drawn. The two branches, this new branch is rotated with this angle. When the length of the second branch is more than 1, then a new point is put over here and a new branch begins to be drawn. When the length of the third branch is more than 1, then a new point is put here and a new branch begins to be drawn, and so on. And we can have as many iterations of this algorithm as we want. So let's begin this drawing. First of all, we need to draw a vertical line starting from the start, the origin point, from the origin point, and this the length of this line will be set using a number slider from 0 to 10. So this is the initial line. And we need to arrange a vector that will be parallel to the z-axis in the beginning, but afterwards we will be able to rotate this vector. So first of all, we need the unit z from the vectors and the component rotate vector. So the vector which will be rotated is this one. It will be rotated around the y-axis, so we need the y-axis here, and the initial angle will be 0. So here we need a panel to write inside the number 0, and this will be the initial vector, a vector which is parallel to the z-axis. Now, when the length of this curve is set to 1, we want a point here. So we are going to choose the component evaluate curve. This is the curve that is going to be evaluated, and now we want to set the parameter of the curve. If we put the number slider here, we will see that the point is always moving upwards. What we want is that before the number of number slider is set to 1, we want that this point is put here in the beginning. So we want that the parameter is set to 0. When the number slider, this number slider is more than 1, then we want that the parameter is stick over there, is stick to the number 1, is stick to 1. So we're going to use Python to write a script, not this one, this one. We don't need y, we need only x, and we're going to choose this length, to put here the length of the curve. Actually, we need to measure the length of the curve. We can use the length component. This will give back the same number as this one. So we can put here the length of the curve. The out, we don't need this. We need only the A. And now we can double click this one, erase all this, and start writing. If x less than 1, A will be equal to 0. Else A will be equal to 1 divided by x. Test, there is no mistake, and OK. Now we will see that we needed to put the A here, and we will see that if the length of this curve is less than 1, there is no point here. The point is set in the beginning. When this number slider reaches the number 1, then a point appears here, and it stays, it doesn't move. Now we need a new line to begin from this point So we need to construct a new line that will begin from this point. So curve, primitive, line SDL, from this point, that will have the direction of a vector that will be rotated in relation to this initial vector. So we need a new vector. We can copy paste this one, erase the vector, the z-axis, and put here the initial vector, and arrange the angle of rotation to be p divided by 8, for example. This will be the vector. And for the length of this new curve, of this new line, we need to think as such. This length will not be 1, always 1, but when the point is here, the length will be 0. When the point is here and the new line begins to be drawn, the length will be started. So we need here to change something. We will use the letter B for the length of the new line. It will be set to 0 for x less than 1, and for x more than 1, it will be set to x minus 1. Let's see why we need this. If this is 1, then the new point is put here, and the length is 1 minus 1, 0. As this goes bigger, this number goes bigger, we will always subtract number 1. So here we need the letter B, that will be the length of the new curve. And we can do the same for this curve now. Exactly the same routine for the new one. So we need to copy all these things, all these, copy and paste them, and do the same for this curve. Put that here and there, and this vector here, and we'll have our third curve. When the second one, the length of the second curve, the second line, reaches number 1, then a third line begins to be drawn, etc. We can do that as many times as we want manually, or we can use anemone in order to make it easier. So, in order to use anemone, we need the start of the loop and the end of the loop. Those two are going to be connected. And we need, here we are going to, at D0, we are going to put the line. we also need D1 to put the vector, and D2 to put the length of the curve. This part we don't need it. Let's make it disabled. So, the curve goes to D0, this is the curve. The vector goes to D1, so this is the next vector, and the length to D2, this is the length. Here we need also D0, D1 and D2. So this is the new line goes to D0. The new vector goes to D1. And the new length, the length of this curve, so we need analysis length, goes to D2. And we need to right click and choose record data. Now we need to say how many iterations we are going to have using a number slider. Let's say that we want 10 iterations. And we have designed this tree, and always a new branch begins when the previous branch reaches 1 meter length.